guys. I do want to point out that it's I don't know historic, but it's a significant moment in our program because Tyreek Smith is going to join the list of guys that we've had graduate here, and it's a tremendous story. Like several others, it's why I'm always motivated to do the right thing by these kids because he's going to be the first person in his family to graduate from college, and that's going to change what everyone else following him thinks is possible in life, and that's pretty cool. I mean, to think that he's someday going to have children that they're not going to think anything else. Like going to college is a real thing, and whoever his younger siblings are, or nephews or cousins, that they think that you can go to college, and because going to college and getting a degree gives you a better chance to have success. I think the statistics bear that out. He's not going to walk Saturday. It was his choice because we play, but I think more importantly, we have several other guys that are going to graduate, and he wanted to walk with him in May. So I'm pretty proud that's continuing to be something that's happening here. A lot of credit goes to Marilyn Middlebrook and Amy Randolph and their staff over in the Academic Center. So I'm very thankful because that's something that we've kept really, really important here.
You mentioned from time to time people think they're going to come here for a year and then they're going to be in the NBA. Is there a time where you can kind of see it set in with guys that, like, holy crap, I'm going to be a college graduate?
Less and less, it seems. Which is, I guess it's okay. But yeah, I mean, I think it's set in for me. The NBA stuff, right? I think the NBA stuff set in for me fairly quickly. So I got to college in 2000, and I watched college basketball, but I didn't follow the SEC. Really, the only team in the SEC I watched was Kentucky because I was a Rick Pitino fan, loved the way his teams played in the mid-90s. Well, I get to college, and we're playing SEC games, and there's a guy on the University of Arkansas named Joe Johnson. I'm like, Joe Johnson looks pretty good. He's 6'7", he can really score. Somehow I get matched up on him. And I think I remember that night thinking, if that's an NBA player, then I'm not. So,
but you were getting a college degree.
I mean, absolutely. I was making sure, like, Mom was right. You probably need to stick to the academics. But there are a few moments in my college career that it was clearly obvious that there was a wide gap between where I was and where the guys who were going to the NBA were.
Who's the best player you've ever matched up against?
Well, I played against a lot of great players. Obviously, Joe Johnson is one of those. In college or just in life?
Yeah, I guess in
college would probably be easy. Jarvis Hayes played at Georgia, started his career at Western Carolina, excuse me. I think his brother is the head coach at Georgia State now. They were twins there. He was another one because I was hearing people say he wasn't an NBA player, and I was like, dude looks like, name a really good NBA two guard. Like that's what they look like. Mo Williams was at Alabama when I was in college. Probably, if I remember being outplayed by anybody, that would be the game that would come to my mind. Playing in Tuscaloosa my junior year, he was tremendous. Marquise Daniels was another one. Distinctly remember him scoring about 25 points in the first half of a game in Columbia, and Coach Odom looking and telling me that I was going to guard him to start the second half. And I was like, well, why? Like, just let the other guy get the other 25 points. Like, he's already going now. I mean, I'm 6'2", he's like 6'8". And I remember, like, guarding him in the post one time and him turning around, and he kind of looked at me, looked down at me, and raised up and shot the ball. And I was like, all right, Coach, thanks. I appreciate it. I guess you wanted to spread the well. So it's been a lot of good players. Tayshaun Prince, Keith Bogans. Played in the SEC when it was really, really good, top to bottom. So it was good for me.
Mindset-wise, where's the team kind of at after the trip to Brooklyn?
You know what? I think a little bit of a light came on for them in this sense. We have 4 losses now. We'd certainly rather have none, but I think the team finally realized that we've only been beaten once. And UConn, in my opinion, UConn beat us. When Musa goes out of the games, it became very difficult for us to get through without him on the court, considering their team, how they were playing. But a 1-point loss at home in Southern Illinois, we made colossal mistakes. We had a 17-point lead, I think, against Central Florida. And then it's a tie game with 2 minutes to go. We got the ball, and we don't get a shot for 3 straight possessions. Not because they ran and trapped us or they, we just threw the ball away. And I think they realized that, if we're going to reach the goals that we have, then we got to take ownership and play better. And so it's been very spirited, very competitive. Guys seem pretty motivated. We probably had our best practice of the year yesterday. We had another really good one today. And that's what gives you a chance. You're only as good as your preparation. And we've prepared well, and now we got to go put it in action.
And another slow start up there. You gotten any closer to diagnosing the Jekyll and Hyde of the first half and the second half?
Not necessarily. It's been different things each time. Like the other day, it was more, we screwed up some simple defensive schematic things that we had talked about, which they then made us pay for. And then that puts pressure on your offense to execute because that's the type of team that takes advantage of all your mistakes. And then we missed a few layups, like Reek misses a dunk, BT misses a layup. We just missed some opportunities, but like always, that happens in a game. I don't know if there's any one thing at this point that I can pinpoint, but I know we got to find a way to play more consistently throughout the game.
That's good.
You kind of mentioned, obviously the goal is to play in the tournament, and it's tough to put any stock into, bracketology that's, less than 15 games into the season, but with everything you said about realization, and does that kind of make Wichita State and the rest of non-conference kind of must-wins going into Big 12?
I don't know. I didn't even know they do bracketology this early. I don't know how it's significant or what it means. I mean, especially for a team like us, in a league like ours. Let's try to do the math here. 18 league games. We play Ole Miss. We have 2 games. So we have 21 games left. Every game we play in conference play can move the needle forward. There are no bad losses available, right? Playing at Wichita can move the needle, right? And then obviously playing Ole Miss at home. I would say Corpus is probably a game that doesn't move the needle. Right, you can't lose it, but it doesn't move the needle for getting in. So I think you just got to step back, and it's a lot of season to play, and there's a lot of opportunities for this team still. Now, we've certainly missed a couple. UConn could have been a tremendous win for us. Winning on a neutral court against Virginia Tech could have been great, but you still can't go 0-18 in the league. So nothing's really changed in the sense of we lost some games we didn't want to lose, we're disappointed in, but from my perspective, you build the schedule not to lose, but to learn and to figure out who you are so that you can be playing your best. I probably sound like a broken record. It's the calendar turns of conference play, and you are going to play in those type of games twice a week. If learning a lesson from Virginia Tech helps us go 8-4 over the next 12, then I'll take it. Or 6-4 over the next 10. It would have been well worth it.
What's the scout on Wichita State?
They're good. Got a lot of new players, but they've got a couple guys who've been around that have new roles. Like Craig Porter Jr., who's a dynamic point guard, can score it. Leads them. He's second in rebounding. He leads them in blocks as a point guard. Leads them in steals. So he's stuffing the stat sheet pretty well. Jaquan Walton is not on a ton of attempts, but shooting almost 56% from 3. So obviously he's a guy we got to do a job on, and they've got some length, inside that could pose an issue for us. So we got to prepare well again tomorrow. Travel up there and be confident that what we do at its best can be better than what they do.
You mentioned Walton. He's like 6'7", I believe. That's a guy last year you'd thrown ice on. Who do you kind of give that challenge to?
It's probably an assignment BT will draw to start, I would think. I haven't really settled on the matchups. We usually try to get to the day before we settle into that. But because of the nature of the way we play, there'll be multiple guys that guard him. It's a good opportunity maybe for Q or Woody to kind of pop their head up and show that they can be a defensive presence for us.
Q didn't get a ton of minutes in Brooklyn. Was there a reason for that?
Did you watch the game?
I did.
Did you see him when he was in there?
I guess I didn't notice him that much.
Yeah, I'll say this, not to embarrass the kid,
Good thing
because we
for him.
talked about it. He's a great kid. Turnover, no. Blown defensive assignment, turnover, blown defensive assignment. Then he's wide open, and he looks like he doesn't want anything to do with the basketball. And at that point, you got to figure he's not really ready yet for this. So that's all.
Gotcha.
He'll get better. He'll be in those games a lot more in his career, and he'll be really good because he's got a lot of pride and he wants to be good.
You kind of talked about the late game turnovers against Virginia
Yeah.
Tech. How just turnovers in general for you guys? Are you Tyreek mentioned maybe you're sped up sometimes because of pressure.
Yeah.
What do you see from a coach's
Yeah,
perspective?
yeah. You know, we got to have our guards be more confident in getting us organized. And that's part of my job is to make sure that they have good direction. And then the guys on the court have to trust each other to execute what we're doing. So one thing you'll probably see a little bit more is John Michael being the initiator more often, giving Bryce and Avery a little bit more time or opportunities to do what they do well, which is score and be finishers as opposed to facilitators. And, you know, it was always kind of the thought process as we recruited them, but you get to the game and you want to see how those other guys have grown in that area. Can they handle more responsibility and making plays for others? But what we found 10 games in, you got enough data to make some adjustments, and that's probably one of the adjustments that we'll make moving forward.
We talked about Bryce Thompson's growth as a defender last week. What does that say about Bryce being one of the guys in the mix to draw that assignment when, you know, maybe last year might not have happened?
No, it wouldn't have happened last year. Not at this time, not at the end of the year. I mean, it wasn't until we talked this summer about where he needed to grow his game. Because we don't get to do what football does. We don't get to stop it when we get the ball and change the guys out. So you have to learn to play both sides, or you're going to have to play less. And guys never want to play less. So he committed himself to getting in better shape. He put on a good amount of weight so he can withstand, guarding bigger, stronger guys sometimes. And then just being more conscious of a defender. Sometimes it's not ability. It's just that for all their lives, they've never been really emphasized to play defense. Everything's about their scoring ability or shooting or ball handling, and the defense is kind of an afterthought. And when you're as good at it as he was, from a high school standpoint, I get it. I mean, sometimes your coach doesn't care if you play much defense. They just don't want you to get tired down there. He needs you to score.
And then you talked about how last year Ice would be, if there's if they're getting the ball and trying to get a game winning shot, you put Ice on the guy because he's the versatile defender. If BT maybe that guy now for?
I don't know if he's that guy that I would say, you got to go guard him and take that guy out. But I feel much more confident that if he got switched on to somebody, we wouldn't be in trouble or having a call for immediate support. We've got some guys. I mean, John Michael's a good defender, just a little smaller than like Ice was. Good build. But I think Woody and Q both have that ability. I think Tyreek's got the total package of body, athleticism, speed, length, strength, to where it really doesn't matter who that person is, either big or a guard, that he's certainly an option always.
You mentioned Woody. I'm not sure that you said that about him whenever he got here from Syracuse.
No.
How has he grown in that aspect?
Yeah, similar to BT, but not as dynamic offensively. But just, again, being more conscious of, hey, if you want to become a 3-and-D player that people think can have any chance to play anywhere, not just in NBA, but as a pro, like this, D is a part of that. Like, it's just not the 3 and little d, it's a capital one, and you got to know where to be, how to rebound, what guys you need to rotate to, who we're taking shots away from. So just embracing the scouting aspect more. I'm not sure that's something that they did where he was prior to here. Not a criticism, but when you play zone, you don't really worry about as much of those things. You kind of guard the way you guard, and scouting is not really the same. And so, I think coming here was an adjustment from him learning. Just again, that guy's like he's assigned to you. You got to go guard him. Just different.
You talk Tyreek and how he plays. Does it get to like the last couple of weeks and how he's played? Does it get to a point where you guys have to make a decision? Okay, you're really good in this role off the bench, but you'd be more valuable as a starter, or is it just kind of go with the flow? Like, how do you?
Yeah, it's a conversation we've had this week. The other part of it is that the players' perspective matters. Some guys are more comfortable coming off the bench and not allowing themselves to see how the game is being played, and coming in and then making an impact that way. So got to talk to them as well. Obviously, most people would rather start, partly because you get your name called on a PA announcement. Like, it's not really anything other than that. You know, people get to cheer for you as you walk, you know, through the team's line. But as a team, you also want to make sure that you got some balance in the bench versus the starters, and both scoring and defensively.
When you were in college, did you have a guy at the end of the line with the secret handshakes? Like Chris has got to memorize all those things.
No.
Nothing that crazy.
Nerds don't have those things. Clearly, we don't have any nerds.
No.
What is your favorite pair of shoes?
Favorite pair of shoes?
Could be when you don't have, but like your grail. What is that pair?
So I just got the Phantom Travis Scott's about a week ago, and they may be the best shoe I've ever
And they
gotten.
just released last night.
So they may be the nicest shoe I've ever gotten. Maybe.
John said they released last night. You got them a week ago. Is that a credit to your plug?
I mean, they were obviously already made. They didn't make them last night.
That's right.
They just released them last night.
Anything else?
Is that comforting? You don't have to go on the StockX and have to refresh to see if
StockX.
they're there, or whatever
Definitely can't do StockX.
resale place.
The question mark on the end of that kind of gives you all the answer you need to know.
I've seen him at Hibbett's.
I've been ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Early mornings.
I've been there.
When you hear Carolina, do you think North or South? Or is it just like North Carolina, South Carolina? We had a heated discussion before you came in.
I'm not going to make it a heated conversation, but I went to the University of South Carolina. So Carolina to me is South Carolina. But I get it. Carolina in general is North Carolina. You know, my school, my alma mater, I love them, but we've always kind of had this secondary identity issue. Because for a while we felt like we were USC too, and then a bunch of people told us that we weren't USC either. So I think we're just SC now, I think, but maybe we're not that, because if Southern Cal wants that, then I guess they get to have it too. So, you know, we'll just be the Gamecocks. And I think we can trump Jacksonville State on that one.
We'll end it on that.